Atlanta's Inspiration Station, Praise 1025. This is Jacqueline Carr's Family Affair. I have an amazing guest who's here with me right now. She's going to be speaking about the Ebenezer Economic Symposium that is going on. Deitra Crawley, how are you?
I'm well. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. I want you to do me a favor and just share a little bit about yourself and your commitment as an attorney to economic empowerment of women and why is that important to you?
Sure. Well, I am a lawyer, and a few years ago, maybe a couple of decades ago, when I first decided that I wanted to become a lawyer,
Mhm.
I decided that marrying business and law
Yeah.
will serve our community,
Mhm.
our families, and our women
Yeah.
well.
Mhm.
Um, I come from a family of politicians and entrepreneurs, and so that helped form and shape my decision to practice law, serving businesses, serving minorities, women, and people of all colors and creed, because I believe that entrepreneurship
Yes.
is the economic liberation
Mhm.
that that gives our society, our families, and our women
Yeah.
true freedom.
Mhm.
And
Wow.
so I'm currently a partner at Tailoring Nishtuma,
Mhm.
where I serve as a corporate attorney,
Mhm.
serving both domestic and international clients
Mhm.
in helping them manage their legal entities,
Yes.
form companies,
Mhm.
and just strategize around how to best set up their legal structures.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Can you connect with our listeners and viewers on how owning your own business empowers women?
Well, I look back at our history to give us context in empowerment. And as I study our history, I see where free Black women in antebellum owned their own businesses. And it was those women who were able to buy the freedom of their families, their husbands, their children, in spite of the conditions that were going on around them. They
Mhm.
were still able to bring both social and economic freedom to their families and their communities.
Yeah.
And so that's why economic empowerment and entrepreneurship are linked, intrinsically linked,
Mhm.
in the sense that we have we have seen in recent days and in recent years and days how when we are not empowered, both our political and social um, well-being suffer.
Mm. Wow.
And so it's important that we find ways to encourage our women um, to form their own businesses
Mhm.
and to be inspired by our ancestors who did it under conditions that were so dire,
Mm.
much more so than what we experience today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hearing you speak, you are empowering yourself and you are doing an amazing work. And since we're talking about businesses, could you elaborate on how to legally set up a business?
Sure, yes. So when I speak with clients on the structural components of forming a business, there are a few things that I ask them to consider. One being, where would you like to serve? Where would you like to set up your business? What is your business location? What are your thoughts around the entity type? And many of them will say, well, I don't really know about that. I just want to start a business, so I work with them to think it through what structure, what management, what liabilities, and even tax considerations should be considered before selecting a location and an entity type. The location informs the regulations that that company will have to follow. Um, the entity type also informs not only regulations, but the management and the operations of that company. So I tell our clients and my clients to really think about, let's give some thought to that, some consideration. Business location, of course, we would have to consider and think about as I said, the laws, the regulations. And so if it is a sole proprietorship, which is a form of business structure, then of course, there is no requirement by the state to file or register with that state. But there are other things you have to think about. Liability, personal liability protections, your personal assets are really at risk.
Mhm.
And so if the business is something that you think it may be long-term or high risk, then I advise, let's look at some of the state entity um, businesses, such as corporations. And within corporations, you have C Corp, you have an S Corp, you have the opportunity to elect a B Corp now in the state of Georgia as recently as January 2021, depending on the business purpose. And then, of course, you have nonprofits. So we think through the business purpose, and then we decide on what that entity type is as we think about what type management structure, whether there will be more than one owner of the business, um, whether thinking through maybe a 5-year plan. Is it a business that you may want to go public? Or is it a business that you may want to sell in a few years? And so those are all the factors that inform that entity type. Now, in addition to that, in the state of Georgia, you have the option of electing to reserve your business name.
Mm.
I advise that if you're not really sure as far as how long it may take you to think through those other things I just mentioned, such as your business location, your business entity type, to go ahead and reserve that name and then find out whether you can protect that name legally, such as your trademark registrations.
Mhm.
If you're a sole proprietor,
Mhm.
then you most likely will be doing business as an entity in your name. And then the state of Georgia requires that you register that DBA at the county level. So those are the things that we walk through with clients whenever we are advising as to when and how to set up a business.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I did not mention as relates to location. I mentioned though that the location informs the laws that your company will have to abide by. Not only are state laws applicable, but your local laws are applicable, such as your county and municipal laws
Mhm.
with respect to zoning. If you're selecting a location, there may be a zoning permit that's required.
Mhm.
There are also business licenses and permits that your municipalities and in some cases your counties require.
Yeah.
Those are all the things to think about when you're trying to set up a business.
Well, Ms. Deitra, you're filled with so much great information and definitely information that will help people progress in their businesses. And I want you, before we leave, to share your social media so that we can definitely follow you.
Sure. So Taylor English Duma is a proud sponsor of the Economic Empowerment Symposium at the historic Ebenezer Baptist Church.
Mhm.
And we are located at www.taylorenglish.com. And we are on Facebook and LinkedIn as well. Our firm supports economic empowerment, and it's in line with our model and our mission, which is equal access
Mhm.
to gains and opportunities.
Mhm.
Not only we demonstrate that amongst our attorneys with a unique model design at Taylor English, but we encourage um, women as well, because women make up a large part of our firm. And
Yes.
we believe that as professional women, we have a duty to give back and to push forward women,
Wow. Wow.
others.
Mm. That is amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on Jacqueline Carr's Family Affair. Family, make sure that you follow her, follow them on their social platforms. It's been a great time speaking with you. Keep it locked. You never know who's joining us on the Jacqueline Carr Family Affair. This is Praise.